Guys, I've been looking to do these Silver Stars icons on the Road to Glory account, but if you're anything like me, I'm a little bit lazy. I want to do them as fast as possible and as easy as possible. So I thought I'd put a video together today where I've looked at what I think is the best way to complete these, and it'll be the fastest way for anyone who just wants to get these icons in the club, but not spend too much time doing it. I'm going to cover the team building you should do for this. Some player recommendations I think will help you get this done as soon as possible, as well as what game modes I'm looking to do this in. And starting off with the team building, boys, I'm going to be honest, right? There's 5 icons here. We've got Moore, Yashin, Garincha, Eusebio, and Charlton. I'm only going to be looking to do, when I'm doing this, these last 4 first, right? The reason is because you can kind of complete Yashin, Garincha, Eusebio, and Charlton using the same team, whereas this Bobby Moore needs a full English team and kind of ruins what I'm going to show you completely. So in my opinion, if you want all 5, follow what I'm going to show you for these 4. Once they're starting to be completed and you've just got Charlton left, you can then do Charlton and Moore together by using a full English team, basically. But you can do all the rest of the 4 combined using one team. The team we're going to be building, right, that is best for this is going to be 3 silver players, so we can get the Yashin ticked off. That one's nice and easy. We're going to need Brazilian attackers to get this Eusebio ticked off. We're going to be using the Carnival of Goals, because remember, boys, you only need to complete 1 of 2 of each of these objectives, okay? So we're going to be using Brazilian attackers to score in 15 separate games. We're going to be using 6 Portuguese players, so we're not going to go for the score in separate matches. And the reason for this one, boys, is Eusebio is the longest one to complete out of the 4 we're doing, which means I don't want to risk having to score in 100 separate matches and missing out if we go a game without scoring. Because this one's the longest, you want to be using 6 Portuguese players in the starting 11 to make sure that simply after 100 games, you are guaranteed to have Eusebio in the club, okay? And boys, comment down below, do you think this is fair? Because I've heard a lot of people say that this Eusebio is taking too long to get. I think for the cards you get and the concept of it, it's fair, but let me know down below what you think, right? Bobby Charlton, we need to assist a goal in 100 separate games using an English player, so we're also going to be using English attackers, right? So we've got silver players, English attackers, Brazilian attackers, and Portuguese 6 players, right? So let me jump over to what I think you should do for the team of this, and I'll jump into some player recommendations that I think will help you tick this off nice and soon. Right, jumping into the team, boys. This is how you're going to build a team, okay? You need 6 Portuguese players first, but we don't need to score goals with them. So you're going to put your 6 most offensive players as Portuguese. This means the goalkeeper, your back line in whatever formation you're playing. So unless you're playing a 5 or 3 back, that'll be 5 of your players. And then whichever your most defensive central midfielder is. So if you're playing a 4-4-2 flat like this, it's just whichever centre mid is going to be the most offensive. Or a lot of you will be playing formations closer to this, where you've got DMs. In this one, again, full Portuguese back line, including the goalkeeper, and 1 DM is going to be Portuguese. We then need to assist goals with English players in separate games. So we're going to be using the 3 most creative players to be English. So in this situation, I'm going to use the cam, CDM, and right mid, or the CDM, right mid, and left mid. This will depend on how you play, boys. If you score more goals with your wingers, you're going to save one of them to be Brazilian. If you score more goals with your cam, like I actually do, I'm probably going to save the cam and striker to be Brazilian and have the left mid, CDM, and right mid being English, as we need assist with English players. But for Garincha, we need goals with Brazilian players, okay? We need then 3 of these players to be silver players to tick off Yashin. And this sounds like it's getting a lot in terms of team building, but when I jump over into the players, you'll see you can actually build a quite strong team with this, even with all the requirements. And what's really important to remember is when you start to complete Yashin will be one of the first ones you complete. You can then take the silver players out of your team. You've just then got the Brazilian, English, and Portuguese team, and you'll very, very quickly just have a very meta team, which you can use to get the last 3 of the 4 we're going for, okay? In terms of where I think you should put the silver players, I think, and this is my personal opinion, this will matter depending on person to person, I think one of them should be fullback. I think you should have 1 gold fullback, 1 silver fullback. I think one of your silver players should be DM, and I think one of your silver players should be a winger. The reason this is it creates a nice balance across the team where you've not got too many silvers in one position. You can put the right fullback, the left DM, and then the right mid, or the right fullback, right DM, and left mid. You can split it up. It means you can still attack down one side with a goal player, and you can still defend with goal players. And as long as you get a meta silver, which I'll show you some today, it won't be too bad, okay? Right, so now you know what sort of team you're going to need to build. Here are some player recommendations that should help you get this done as soon as possible, okay? Starting off with the defense, remember, we're going to go for a full Portuguese defense, which is great because they have some nice, cheap options. And of course, when I'm talking through these players, if you've got a better, more expensive option that you've packed and is in the club, of course, use that. This is so you can do it from scratch, okay? So in goal, you have 2 options. You've got Diogo Costa and you've got this Rui Silva. I'll be honest, boys, I prefer this Rui Silva even because of his play styles. He has footwork and deflector. But either of these 2 goalkeepers is basically discard. and they will be fine, right? When we move on to the defense, this is where it gets interesting because I wanted to provide you with some silver options you can use. And like I said, I'm going to be using a silver fullback and then a gold fullback on the other side. These are the options I'm looking at, okay? We've got Wilson Manafa, who can play both right back and left back and is near discard with both 87 pace and 76 physical. He has 90 acceleration. I really like look at this card with rapid. You've also got Aurelio Buster from the Bundesliga, who plays right back with 87 pace. He's a solid option. You've got this Ruben Vinagre, who plays left back. He's got 82 pace, inventive whip. Again, he's a decent option. You've also got Kiki at left back, who has 84 pace, 68 physical, although no play style, so I'd avoid him. So in my opinion, I would choose one of these first two to play at right back, or if they're too expensive and they go up in price, you can choose Vinagre or Kiki to go at left back, right? If you choose one of the gold right backs, I would then go this Nuno Tavares at left back, who's basically discard and has some lovely play styles. If you choose one of the gold left back, or one of the silver left back, sorry, I would go for Dallo at right back, who, by the way, I use in my actual team and is absolutely class. So there, using that, you've got your fullbacks and goalkeeper sorted. And I think centre backs is really easy as well. Because again, if you're just buying this team, you have Goncalves Inacio here, who's 700 coins and is absolutely class. And next to him, you can put this Thomas Araujo, who again, these both have jockey, which is one of the best defensive play styles this year. They both have great pace, great stats. For starter cards, boys, these actually will be class in-game. They're both lengthy, tall centre-backs. And this is your whole back line done. You now just need a CDM who's Portuguese or a centre midfielder who's Portuguese. And let me show you who I would use here. Let me first show you some of the silver options I'm looking at. If this is another slot where I'm going to use a silver player at centre mid or CDM. The first one here is this Martin Neto. He's got technical. He can play centre mid CDM. Has near 70s across the board. Is a class silver for pretty cheap. You've also got this Samu card, who again, look at the play styles on this guy, right? Aerial Fortress, incisive, technical, first touch, relentless. As a centre mid or CDM, decent stats. I just don't like the defending. So in my opinion, this is more if you're playing a centre mid. The other options, you've got my personal favourite, who I'm going to use. I think it's this Diego Goncalves, because he can play centre mid, has rapid whip, and just has a lot of, like 82 pace, a lot of good stats. This is who I'm probably going to use at centre mid. You also have this Guga Rodriguez. Again, I like the play styles on this guy and has near 70 pluses across the board. Him again is my centre mid. I think it's either of these two for me that you should be looking at. And the last one I've chose is this Gustavo Sarr. Again, centre mid, incisive, aerial fortress, even has low driven. Really like this card as well. This is if you're going to use a silver option, which I'm personally going to do. I'm going to use a silver fullback, a silver defensive midfielder here, and I'll also jump into the silver winger, or what a few of the silver wingers that I'm going to try and use. The other options here is if you use a gold Portuguese midfielder, and I'll show you who I'm going to use here. The boys, like I said, I'm actually going to use a silver, but if I was going to use a gold in this position, this is who I'd use. I prefer using a silver here is because the reason why is because there's not that many gold defensive Portuguese midfielders. The three I've picked out are Mateus Nunes, who again, he can't play CDM. He can just play centre mid. But with 85 pace and solid stats, he'd be my first go-to. You have two other choices, in my opinion. You've got Otavio, who has a great set of play styles, but again, as a centre mid with only 70 defending, again, is more attacking. The third option, who is okay, is this Renato Sanchez. If you're going to go a goal player as your defensive midfielder, I'd go Renato Sanchez. But in this instance, if you're going to use a Portuguese defensive midfielder, I actually prefer some of the silver options. And because we don't need these Portuguese players to score or assist, I think it's better that we use defensive players here. So in my opinion, that should be your Portuguese players ticked off. If you've got other players in the club, great. The rest of this team now is going to be a mix of English and Brazil players. And we need one more silver in the team, if you're building it like I am, to get Yashin ticked off as well. So let's jump into that next. So boys, up next, I'm going to jump into the English players. And remember that for the English players, you then want to have 3 of the English players who are the next most defensive in your team. So not actually defensive, but you're trying to save the 2 most attacking spots to be Brazilian, as we need to score with Brazilian players for Garrincha, okay? This might be a centre mid, a right mid, a left mid, a centre mid, a winger, or a cam. Or if you're playing a narrow formation, it might be 2 centre mids and a cam, okay? Just the 3 next most defensive players are going to be English. I've just picked out 4 or 5 of my favourite silver players. You don't need to use all the silver players here. These are just one of the other options you could use. The gold options, I think, are a little bit more obvious, so I'll leave that to you boys. But you've got Anthony Gordon, Eze, Rashford. There's so many gold, cheap English wingers, midfielders. I like some of the centre mids, like there's Loftus-Cheek, Gallagher as well. There's loads of ones there, so you can use them as well. But in terms of the English players, starting off on the more expensive side, we've got this Joe Bellingham. I don't need to go and buy this card when doing this, but if you do have the coins and you definitely want to use one of the better silvers, he is, of course, one of the better ones with great stats and actually some nice play styles with press proven. Some of the other options you've got is Jesse Lingard, if you're going to play him at cam or centre mid, has really nice play styles. Again, is a little bit more expensive. Some of the cheaper options I've picked out is this Raksaki from Crystal Palace as a right winger. I just like the pace and the dribbling. I think you'll play okay in game until you get that Yashin completed. Because remember, boys, all of these silvers are just until you get Yashin completed. You can then take them out and focus on the rest of the cards, okay? Then you've got Lewis Barry. This is who I'd pick if you want a left mid. 89 pace, and I really like the play styles, And in my opinion, this is who I'm going to be using for my team when I build it, just in case you weren't aware. For Caden Jackson is another one I'd use just at right winger. Again, don't use him at striker. This is at right winger, as I like the 91 pace with rapid. But him not being in a top league and being in the championship means chemistry might be a little bit harder to get on this Jackson. Depends on how you build the team. I'm going to choose Lewis Barry, who is also in the championship. I'm going to take the chemistry hit there and probably just try and get a manager link somewhere. So I don't mind that too much. But they're the options that I would use if you're using a silver player. And like I say, the other two players that you should pick from England, because I think you should have one of these silvers. You can go Anthony Gordon, Eze, Gallagher, Loftus-Cheek. There's quite a few more. Again, you're just doing these as your midfielders, your wingers, and make sure you're saving the two most attacking spots in your team for these Brazilian players up next. And in my opinion, you should not use silvers here. The reason for this is, in the Brazilian players, is Garrincha is probably the one you'll complete first, as it's the easiest one to complete, only having to score in 25 separate games, which means if Brazilian attackers here, you can get this one completed nice and early, and then make the team even better after you're done the Garrincha one. So I'd try and get that done as soon as possible and choose two gold attackers to do Garrincha. And I'll jump into some of the options that I'm looking at here. Two things here again, boys. Of course, this will depend on what formation you play in, whether you're using wide players or not. And it will also depend if you have anyone in your club. If you've got Rafinha, Vinny, Rodrigo, anyone like that, of course you go and use them here. But this is if you don't. This is for everyone, so we can complete it from scratch. These are my favorite players to use for the Brazilian attackers. I would always use your two strikers if you have a two-striker formation to be Brazilian. And if you have a one-striker formation, you choose your striker and then either your cam or one of your wingers. So I've got options for all of them here. Starting at left wing. The left wing, the best option in my opinion, is simply Martinelli. Fast, great play styles, easy to link, easy. I like him. David Neres as well has loads of play styles at left wing. I really like that as an option. We've got Malcolm here. This is if you're looking for a Brazilian cam. His play styles are crazy and his stats are really good. He's definitely harder to get chemistry on, but in terms of just pure stats and play styles, he's my favorite. I've then shown you this Mateus Cunha, who I would use at cam, and this is more if you want someone who's easy to link. If you've got some of the Prem players in there, you might have Dallo at right back, for example, from the Portuguese league links before. So he's more easy to link, but I prefer Malcolm as a player. Then got Anthony on the right wing. If you want your, the Brazilian player to be your right winger, that's fine. And then on the his right wing again, or Cam Esteval, but I'd use this if you're going for a right winger. I know he's non-rare, boys. Don't let that fool you. This guy's got some great play styles and some really nice stats, okay? You can also use Anderson Talisca at Cam. I wouldn't use him at striker. I know he has 86 shooting. I prefer him at Cam. The two striker options that I'm looking at here, as pace isn't as important this year as it has been in previous years, is Endrick, but my personal favourite is this Gabriel Jesus. That 86 dribbling with technical will actually prove to be really, really nice in game. And I think you whack a Hunter on this card and he'll bang goals in. Honestly, pace is not as important as it has been in previous years. So either of them two cards for me are who I'm going to be using up front. Garrincha is, I think, only scoring 25 separate games. This is probably the one you'll complete first and then maybe Yashin next. So don't worry, you're not going to have these cards in your team the whole time you're running it. So it's not too bad. But these are the cards I'm going to be using. Now I'm going to jump into how I'm going to be completing these icons, what game modes I'm looking at, etc. But boys, jumping back over to the silver icons page, we're looking at the game modes, okay? Like I said, we're going to skip this Bobby Moore for now. If you want all 5 icons, my best recommendation would be do the others first, because you're going to need a full English team for this guy, so you just need to do that last, okay? For Yashin, you can do this, and I think it's the same for the rest of them, in squad battles, rivals, champions, or live events, okay? I think it's the same for the rest of them. Garrincha, the same. Eusebio, the same. And Bobby Charlton, the same, okay? Starting with how I'm going to do this and how I think you should do this, okay? If for whatever reason you're still playing squad battles, you enjoy the game mode, you like getting the rewards, anything like that, okay? Your number one thing is every single squad battles game you play should be using that team you've just built with your Brazilian players, your Portuguese players, and your English players, okay? That's number one. However, a lot of us aren't going to be playing squad battles too much. The second thing is live events, okay? Any and all live events that come out that don't have a team requirement, I would use this. The only, I'd use this team, I mean. The only caveat to that is if the live event is maybe a tournament that has limited time use, or it's something where essentially you don't get unlimited games, then I would go back to using your main team. If you do have unlimited games, or it's not something like a tournament that's a knockout and you only have maybe 1 or 2 goals a day, I would always use the team we've just built until you get these icons. And the last thing is obviously rivals. So I'd avoid using this team in champs. But basically, boys, from what I've seen this year, meta teams are definitely not needed as much in previous years with the slower power curve. The only people I'm seeing with these mega teams are credit card abusers and pros. And even them, boys, I'm beating some of these credit card abusers with these lower end teams this year. It's really not too bad. And using these lower end teams and rivals will massively, massively help you in FUT Champs as well. If you get better with a lower team, when you go back to using your main team in champs, you're going to fly, right? So I would also then use it in rivals. And doing that, all your squad battles games, all your live event games, and all your rivals games, the last one you should tick off is this Eusebio, which is 100 games with 6 minimum Portuguese players in the team. It'll be the same for Charlton as well, because he's also going to be in 100 separate different games. So you're going to maybe tick Charlton off after Eusebio. But with how this game plays, you should be assisting the goal with an English player if you built the team right, basically every game. So these two will be the 2 you tick off last. My last recommendation for this would be, if you've got Eusebio, you've got Garincha, and you've got Yashin, but you're still taking off Bobby, Charlton, and you've got a few of these left, you can, of course, if you want to, build a full English team and work towards Bobby Moore as well. I'm not as interested in this card. I don't think it's as good as the rest, but that's just personally what I'm doing. If you want all 5, I'd recommend doing that. So, boys, this is what I'm going to be doing on the road to glory and the team that I'm going to be using. If this helped at all, leave a like on the video. You'd be an absolute legend. If you are enjoying FC26, you might want to check out this video here where we ranked all the new cornerstone players in terms of meta and price, so you know which ones to try and get for your team when FUT Champs rolls around. So go and check that out down below this video here. But like always, boys, until next time, in a bizzle.